Yeah, that got a bit 80s, that, didn't it?
That was too much. That was far too
much. Unnecessarily 80s. Good morning, Simon.
Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, and all of any other non-religious holidays and things like that.
Merry Christmas, everybody. And how was yours?
Great. It's really, really good, actually, apart from the horror show that is Turkey, of course. I've done Thai curry, turkey curry, turkey soup. So it's just the gift that keeps on giving.
It's a tough bird, that's for sure.
What do you like in this industry? Many tough birds, but enough of that. What do you have? Educate me, a poor sinner who doesn't know what happens in your household.
Well, I think you're allowed to eat turkey. Well, we're not massive Christmas people, but we enjoy a bit of a festive break, and watching you lot be happy for the first time in a year is amazing.
Wait a minute now. We've still got 5 days or whatever it is for 2020 to throw one last hurrah at us. I'm guessing, if you were to have a guess, what we've had, obviously the random mutant strain. I'm guessing it's going to be the meteorite that wipes out 90% of us. What's your thought? What has 2020 got in store for us?
It's 2020 still got in the bag for us this year.
Yeah. Apart from our New Year special.
Oh, have we found out yet what Brexit actually, what that deal, the last minute deal, what that entails?
Okay, this is pretty embarrassing now. I've downloaded the PDF of all whatever it is. What's it, 1,200 pages? And at the moment, I'm trying to skim read it using the power of a 1-hour speed reading course that I did, and that is speed reading, not a speed awareness course.
You actually paid for speed.
I did. It was really good, actually. You have to de-loosen your mind, which comes quite easily to me.
And what have you gleaned so far?
It's a shit show. it's an absolute shit show. But the important thing is, and this genuinely is it, you know what? I just don't know if it matters for the moment, because it's all about, obviously, the people's confidence and everything else there. The fuckwits think that they've got a great deal and everything else. So hopefully there's still a bit of a bounce, and anything, of course, would have been better than a no deal. So there's this thing going on where everyone's saying, "Oh, all you Remainers, you wanted it all to absolutely fail." We really didn't. What we just wanted to do was just make sure that people realised we were right. That's far more important to me than anything else.
Well, I did some reviewing last night. I just want to share something with you, if you don't mind.
As long as it's clean, I wouldn't like to ruin this on Christmas.
It's a medical tradition, this. It's every year. Yeah. Every year at this time of the year, the medical profession reviews. Obviously, there's been loads to review this year in terms of activities in hospital. But I think you're going to like this one.
Oh, yeah.
Can you see that?
I certainly can. I've never seen my inside like that before.
Now, this is the most amazing sight ever, because medical professionals have donated their valued experience here. So these are the things that people have stuck in their ear, and okay, look, there's all sorts of stuff in there.
That one there, the earbud. I once remember putting an earbud in and taking my hands off for a minute and turning, and embedding myself on the mirror, and it went about 3 inches in. Anyway, it didn't affect me.
This one worries me a lot. What? Anyone who's got small children was sleeping when her 4-year-old child broke the wooden tip of a paintbrush and put it in her ear. Right?
Yeah, that's straight straight out the Damien movie, Omen movie, that isn't it?
Did you just say Overman movie?
No, I didn't. No, you're hearing things now. You're hearing.
Okay, now these are the things we
Nose.
stuck up our nose this year. Which you've got toy carrots,
Yeah, you're missing a couple there. You're missing
throat.
Well, that's cat toy. What are you putting a cat toy down?
I don't know. What about a small American flag? But tell me something. I have never heard of this in my life. What is that?
Why would you want to plug it up? I don't understand that. This is one of those things where I'm getting, out of kilter. No, I don't know what it is.
Call me, closed-minded. Call me a prude, but I think that's a one-way hole. That is. I don't think anything needs to go back in there.
That was always the. Do you remember how they used to terrify you in sex education when they used to talk about the umbrella? Did you ever?
Yes, they did. Yes, I've had a few friends who've had that actually.
Well, I thought that was just an urban myth, but of course, yeah, it's that's hideous. Okay, now this is all despicable, David.
Playing with phone and fell asleep. When he woke up, his stylus was in his urethra.
How many times has that happened?
It just happens. It happens all the time.
David, I've just looked down. Do you know what's stuck in me? There's got a Furby in me.
Now there's all sorts of stuff, but it starts to get interesting when we get to the rectum.
Well, I'm assuming this next list just scrolls on and on and on and on.
Well, one of my favorites it's obviously the excuses that people are giving. So, shampoo bottle in his rectum that he placed there because he thought he was constipated.
Hang on a minute. You've skipped past it. That's part of a series. He reports inserting a deodorant can inside his rectum last night. Please say that's the same fella. He's just looking for a solution.
But look at the array. Just look at the array of things that can go up there. This list goes on and on and on.
Like, watch a minute. 3 weeks ago, he was drunk. Go back down a minute. 3 weeks ago, he was drunk and put a light bulb on. Oh, could you imagine how pleased you'd be if it lit up?
On your Zoom call, you'd be like, "I've just had a light bulb moment."
Look at this.
So I guess what I'm trying to say to you is that however bad your year you think 2020's been, for some people it's been far worse.
It is, and you know what that also shows, and this is all about, we're a learning site, as they say. That shows the power of a list as well. So if whatever you're doing, make sure you keep a note of it, because it's the only way you can improve. If you can't measure it, you can't manage it. And when you're dealing with things like 10-inch dildos, you do need to measure it.
And these days they sort of rotate, don't they? And so just imagine these things like that thing they used to dig the Channel Tunnel. It just keeps going and going and going.
And it was known as the boring machine, and that's not a few of the people that write on Property Industry Eye.
Right. So we've had Boxing Day.
Yeah.
And I guess when we get back to work, we'll all hear some statistics from Rightmove. But you know what I've been thinking about this whole Boxing Day thing?
Yeah.
Is that it's a little bit like Santa Claus, in as much as your kids only believe in Santa Claus because you fed them that info and you keep backing it up, don't you? So you make them put the carrots out and the biscuits and the milk and whatever it is you leave out for Santa the night before and go to bed in case, all this sort of stuff. But Rightmove does the same thing with agents. It drums into them that the Boxing Day is going to be the biggest year. So what we do now is we hold back stock until Boxing Day.
Yeah, I saw this the other day. Alan Batten, a few people were talking about it, weren't they? That it was like in their area. There's I don't think it was Alan in Alan's area exactly, but it was about 70 properties in there, and they were saying including price drops, and they're saying there was a bit of a disagreement, wasn't there? Some people said, well, it's obviously when you've got the most eyeballs, but then other people hit back and said, well, obviously, it's stupid to launch it there when you're up against so much competition. So how, as a leading estate agent, David, what's your view on that?
To be honest with you, I launched a couple on Christmas Eve because I reckon that what I do think is true is that people have got more time off work. I do think, though, that March to May this year was your ultimate Boxing Day that you were ever going to get. You had more people at home and focused on moving and so on. But I think that because sites like Rightmove and Zoopla and presumably Boomin and on the market as well, because you can set up alerts for new properties hitting the market. Of course, Boxing Day is going to be busier if you're holding back all those new instructions till Boxing Day. So I think we are feeding the beast. I think that is what's happening.
It's always interesting now, isn't it? As people obviously start to have problems with the portal, the stuff that you should ordinarily be doing to help market, there's this weird thing where actually you start thinking in the back of the mind is, well, shall we not market it as effectively because we're just helping them, which isn't particularly constructive, is it?
I think most agents are like me, are quite happy to do whatever it is that sounds good to a vendor as well. So it's lovely to be able to turn around to a vendor and say, hey, look, statistically speaking, there's going to be more eyeballs on your house this year on Boxing Day. So we're going to hold it back till either just before Christmas or Boxing Day itself. But I can't help but feeling we're kind of feeding the beast a little bit.
Yeah, yes. Oh, well, personally, for coming at it, I like to think I've got a bit of a marketeer's head on me. And I'm a little bit obsessed with obviously Seth Godin and the Purple Cow. Don't separate yourself out, however that is. It just doesn't make sense to me that the thing I never understand, is the years, figures in terms of viewing figures, because they are geometrically increasing in the number of views, aren't they? And yourself that the number of listings does not follow, or sales does not follow in the same respect, does it?
No, not necessarily. But I think we've got a bit of hard work in the new year to get people back in that sort of house hunting frame of mind. I think the stamp duty thing helped to keep people focused, didn't it, for a while? And
did you see that post by I think it was Stephen Hayter of My Home Move, and he put it up there and he said, what percentage of your stock do you believe at the moment, agreed obviously to sell, is going to shift by the deadline? What do you think? What would that be in your agency? Do you think you're going to get through? It was something like 25 to 50, 70, 50 to 75, or 75 and above.
Is that stuff in the pipeline already? You mean that the solicitors are currently sat on? I'm going to let you in on a secret. There is no reason why. There is 1 second. The hell was that? I think we're being invaded. No, there's no reason why any solicitors that are handling sales today. I mean, they've got themselves a nice 3-month chunky period to get things through. So as long as everybody pulls their fingers out, and local authorities.
I'm not so sure. Talking to the Thought Move people on one of the shows before, the solicitors themselves, they are burnt out to the point of, there are certain councils that have said simply that they won't be getting searches back now for the next few months. So, when you've got those barriers, those unmovable barriers, what the hell can you or indeed solicitors do as part of the equation?
No, look, I agree with that. The solicitors definitely have worn themselves out, but they were just tremendously under-resourced. I think something our industry did particularly well during lockdown was to prepare itself for going back to work. So agents such as Luke Sinclair, good morning, Luke, and even Mr. Andy Overman. But you had people that had immersed themselves in really sort of preparing to hit the ground running as soon as we came back, to do everything we could to shift as much as possible. And we did a fantastic job of it. The solicitors were woefully unprepared for all of this, and that stamp duty thing seemed to sort of just hit them over the head. Now, Mr. Overman here has suggested something: indemnities against search results. So you can take, as everybody knows who's ever had a major investor want to buy something rather quickly, you can insure your search results. So you can get a transaction through if you want to. Lenders are taking longer, but not longer than 3 months. So if anybody's got a sale that is live today and they've got a decent solicitor, I'm hoping the solicitors have had this Christmas period to recharge their batteries.
Oh, it's the waffle wand. It's the waffle wand. I'm gonna have to press you, David, as property packsman. So what percentage of your pipeline is getting done then? 100%.
Oh, I've got to tell you, I think 86%.
Nice. I love that. A little bit random, random number to make it look like you've thought about it.
86%, but Tom is 100% right. You've never heard moaning from solicitors like we have over the last week. But I've told all of them the same thing. They wish they could moan like this time next year. They wish.
Honestly, it's so funny looking at you. It's like a family dinner where you're hearing about the two sides of the family arguing, hearing you lot moan about them and them moan about you. It's like you're just this big dysfunctional family that hates each other.
Now, Mr. Overman, when he's not out there, do you remember last night's quiz that we did?
I do. Right. Very important.
So one of the questions was, if you remember,
not that one.
No. Andy Overman recently went live from the scene of performing what random act of kindness? Was he A, helping a stranded Shetland pony reach its family in the Shetlands? Was he B, saving a children's nursery from closure? Or C, helping a pensioner cross a motorway bridge? Or was he D, saving a flooded garden centre? Or E, helping firefighting crews to extinguish a fire at Thetford's only Christmas tree farm 2 weeks before Christmas?
Well, I know this one. First of all, you can discount A because it's a Shetland pony. That's a foreigner, so he's not interested about that. I reckon I actually know this because I was watching it glued to the set. It was D. It was Andy was being charitable as he possibly could do, helping out with the floods.
He was in true Andy Overman fashion. He was out there doing a live stream from a flooded garden centre, and that appeal managed to wake up half the town. And the guys managed to save the day.
You do realise what a fuckwit he was. It was just that it was the water features section. They just found the hose pipe that Andy had put there before. I'm not saying that he staged it, but he definitely did.
Join us tomorrow as Andy attempts to drain the local swimming baths.
Look at it. Yeah, this is terrible.
No, but here's Mr. Overman and Mr. Overman himself. He says his first completion, and so that is the first completion on a sale agreed at location. What do they call it? Is it north? They call it. Location, west. I don't know. It's Thetford.
It's not west.
East. Sorry, east. Forgive me. I get a bit mixed up this time of the year. But it was 49 days from first day on the market to completion. That is not bad going. Not bad going at all.
Yeah.
It can be done.
So okay, so how robust then? Getting to the point of this, how robust do you think the market is? I mean, obviously, we've said all along, if you've said to any agent, as I definitely did, and I've got it on tape back in May or June, that you were going to return to a market like this, you'd have said you're even more mental than you usually are. Now, it's obviously kept unseasonably busy right up until the end. Is this just going to go on forever, or are we looking at a recorrection, and if so, when?
I don't think it's going to go on forever, people, and I think that we would be silly to assume it's going to. And I think the other thing is that if you look at Rishi Sunak's resistance to extending that stamp duty deadline, it tells you that we might not have that extra push that everybody hoped they were going to have. And if I were an agent, I would spend the next, well, any time at all. It's all about prospecting now. It's all about, because you cannot guarantee those phones are going to ring naturally. You cannot guarantee that people are just going to want to move in the same motivated way that they were straight after that first lockdown.
Are we not still? Have we not got beyond the point where we say, and now it's time for prospecting? Isn't has Josh Fegan just been wasting his time for Stephen Brown for the last 10 years? You know.
Well, no, look.
Tell me. Let's ask you directly. Of course, you know, it's all about making this consistent and stopping that feast and famine nature of it. Is it just a fact of life that in a, you know, when you don't have the benefit of a client services department, that it is just, that's it. It's a fact of life, and it's always going to be lumpy? Or can you make it consistent enough that you avoid these high and low points?
I think Stephen Brown would tell you that if you make that a constant activity, you can reach some sort of baseline that is always there. And the guys that do it the best, so Luke and Andy are on this morning, but the guys that do it the best, they've constantly got a flow of business coming in. And you might be talking to somebody for a couple of years who then decides that's then the time that they're going to be selling, but you cannot be in touch with these people. They will not remember you if you're not in their face, if they're not seeing you. So, you know, what's it called? Somebody asked, Tom McGee asked a facetious question earlier. Did an act of kindness even happen if you don't document it on Facebook? I tell you something, if you don't get in front of your audience on Facebook doing good things, bad things, whatever it is, they're not going to remember who you are. So next time they come to sell their barge boat or whatever it is that they're doing, they're not going to call you.
Look, I don't like to talk about all the charity work I do, but I'm happy to on the New Year's Eve show. That's okay. That's the first thing. So were you willing to put a pin in the map then and say when you think this is going to just tail off a little bit?
So I think there's some amazing things that are still yet to happen this year. So, well, in 2021. So I think you're going to find that there are some fantastic mortgage deals that are being offered in the first quarter of the year. 90% mortgages. So that, honestly, if you're borrowing to buy a house, it has never been cheaper than it is going to be today. So
we had the guy, the chap on the MD of Home of Mortgages, and he was making the really interesting point that last time this happened, the return of the 90% mortgages had more of an effect than the stamp duty by far. You know, in terms of there, so that might be obviously. I don't know if you'd like to think Sunak's looking at all the data. Maybe they're working on that basis.
Perhaps they are. Perhaps they are. I just think you've got some hard work to do this year, estate agents. But you've done amazingly well. I mean, we'll do this in our 2020 review before we go into New Year's. But I am particularly proud of what I've seen from my industry, and I'm usually its harshest critic. But honestly, sterling efforts this year.
No, did you notice I've worn the mince black today because of your normally cheerful demeanour?
And have you realised I've got on my "Everybody Loves David Mintz" t-shirt?
I haven't seen that.
And we've got the coronavirus man right there.
What's really worrying about that you can just wear shirts of random black people and I don't notice.
You know why? Because Simon Whale does not see colour, and that's the truth.
I literally apart from ginger. Right, okay. So what should agents be doing now for 2021, David, bearing all that in mind?
I would honestly be hitting your databases as much as possible. And if you don't know how to do that, if you haven't got the scripts to do it, you need to get in touch with people like Stephen Brown, with people like Julian O'Dell, with people like reach out to any of the fantastic agents that you see. Luke Sinclair will have a conversation with anyone. He's very good like that. Andy's usually pretty good with that sort of stuff. There are scripts and dialogues. There are things that you should be talking about. There are things you should be saying, but you need to pick up the phone. You need to get in touch with people, and you need to reconnect. That database of yours is full of gold, one way or the other. There are people on there that have viewed houses with you, that have asked you to value their houses. You need to just get back in touch and start doing it the old-fashioned way.
I find it so staggering, and look, that everything you just said there is just 100% true. I can't believe that we're kind of still having this conversation. It's just, isn't it just 101?
Because you know what, there is nothing to this game. If you want to break it down, it's an extremely simple little bit of arbitrage, but you need to roll up your sleeves, do the hard work, and you need to connect with these people. Everyone that sells a house is selling it not because you are such an amazing agent or because Rishi Sunak's giving out stamp duty for free. Don't kid yourselves, guys. They're selling a house because they've got a need that they need to fulfill. They want to move. They want to move areas. They're moving. They've got life cycle events that change. These life cycle events are going to carry on happening regardless of economic conditions. And this is why the one truism that stays with us, and that whole sense of Groundhog Day, is the fact that prospecting brings you business. End of story. And if you don't feed it in one end, it ain't coming out the other.
Just before we move on from the Groundhog Day, that meme you sent the other day about why don't they just launch a sequel to Groundhog Day and show the same movie again, I think was that summed up British brilliance in terms of innovation better than anything else. I do think, do you think people hide behind, they used to say that people didn't do prospecting because it was dead easy to send like a mailer, an emailer out there. Do you think people are hiding a little bit to the same degree behind the likes of Facebook advertising now? That's easy to do. Or...
Yeah, no, it's dead easy to put a little bit of a spend on Facebook, chuck a $5 on a targeted ad and think that's going to do it for you. And in the early days, and you don't see it so much anymore, but the early days we all used to, before the holiday period, chuck 10 quid behind an automated, those instant Val tools like Valpal or my Val. There are loads of them out there. Yeah. We all used to set it up to work over the holiday period. And you'd come back in and you'd have maybe 100 leads of people that are curious. I think that's a little bit old hat nowadays. You still can use it, but don't fool yourself that Facebook is the only thing that is going to save you.
And actually, it's a bit like we were talking about with email. Everything works when they talk about omni marketing and everything like that. It works when email works in tandem with Facebook advertising, in tandem with phone calls and everything else. The sum of the parts is far greater, isn't it? And you only have to check any campaign on that basis.
and I think it's that sense of what have you done for me lately? If they don't hear your voice, then they're not gonna warm to you in the same way. And that phone symbol says it all. Pick up the phone.
Can I just ask Andy Overman? That's probably the nicest thing you've ever said to me. Could you put that as a referral on LinkedIn for me? Also, I like this up here. Where's it gone? Estate agencies a contact sport. That sounds like he's admitting something there. So hopefully we'll hear what he means on that. Did I just hear above as well that charity, that great work he did, which of course was just for charity, actually led to two valuations as well?
There we go. 2 valuations booked as a direct result of last week's community spirit. And although no one watching this at home should use this as an excuse to flood your local garden centre, but it's worth a try, right?
But yeah, what price? Yeah, what's the ROI on a flooded garden centre that you don't own? So, David, I'm going to get. It's the spirit of Christmas. So, first of all, let's deal with the naughty list. So, who's on your naughty list for 2020?
Ooh.
Let's have one. Let's start with the property industry, and then we can widen it.
Do you know what? I think we've already said it. On my naughty list was solicitors. Because I feel there's so much that solicitors can do to help themselves. I feel there's so much that they can learn from us as agents in how to
use email and not fax.
Yeah, What is that? I'll get it across to the other side. My email's in dictation. Your email's on your fingertips, dickhead. Type it, send it, do it. Yeah.
And breathe. Good to see you coming together. Nice to see that Christmas spirit coming together.
Andy Overman's got a few on his naughty list this year. He's got Right Move, solicitors, mortgage companies, everyone but estate agents.
Yes, there was nothing like self-awareness, Andy.
Okay. Solicitors should learn to use the bloody phone. That would be an amazing thing.
Thank you, generic Facebook user. You're right there. And what about David in the wider world? Who do you think, apart from Hancock, of course, who deserves your ire this year? I hope you haven't just.
Well, Trump supporters of any kind whatsoever. I have been. My wife refuses to allow me to watch it inside the house anymore. I became obsessed with that whole election and the rhetoric that was coming out afterwards. Amazing. But I worry. I worry that the people out there that.
We're this close to a dystopian event, aren't we? Did you see he tweeted out, by the way? He tweeted out for January the 6th is the next big review date, isn't it? And he says he's talking about they're having an inauguration ceremony for himself. He's still talking about it.
I think
this is David. This is the political version of Zoolander, where he walks up on stage after they read out Hansel winning the award. It's fucking mental.
It's crazy, but it's more than that. It's the percentage of people, and we're talking millions of people that still believe
74 million.
That there's been some real attempt to distort the truth and to steal that election and to carry on repeating the same mantra unashamedly on the world stage.
I have learned so much this last 4 years. You're seeing Trumpian tactics coming into kerfuffle at this very core now.
But you know what? It echoes the same lies that were peddled by the Leave campaign at some point as well. At some point, and this is why last week ended up in the fish fight that it became. It became all about fish. It became all about. How did that? Is that the most worrying thing on your mind?
Was it 22,000 people involved in it? Meanwhile, hospitality industry, you can get to fuck. Artists, you can't travel in Europe anymore.
So there's been a few instances like that this year, but actually, on the whole, even the people that you would expect me to be angry with, I think can be forgiven.
Are you giving them mixed forgiveness?
I think they can all be forgiven in the true spirit of Christian forgiveness. Did you like that? Did I do it the right way?
Testicles, spectacle. I don't know how it goes. Is it
all that? But in the spirit of Christian forgiveness, I actually think that this has been an exceptionally tough year, and it was a real curveball, and that nobody was expecting.
I predicted it. I'm sorry.
Sorry to buy into the random conspiracy theories. I don't believe it was a random bat in China by this point.
I've got to look. I've never been afraid to take a little bit of the blame when I've done it. And it was about this time last year after Boris Johnson got elected, and I lost my shit a little bit on there. And I said, well, let's hope for a really, really stern flu season. To punish all those Brexiteers.
You did say that. I think you said that on one of our podcasts.
No, not on a podcast, on a Facebook that led to me, my mum and dad having a huge, very public spat.
I remember that.
As he reminded me the other day, he said, please don't wish anything else for 2021. So my commitment this year is I'm not going to wish a global pandemic on the world, which I think is as much as anyone could have hoped. So anyway, that's the bit miserable, David. Let's make it, we're all about, we're the podcast that brings joy, happiness, forgiveness, all that.
Joy to the world.
Who deserves the extra big sack of joy from David Mintz? ignoring.
Honestly, well, listen, you're trying to coax this team talk out of me, but I'm going to give it to you. I'm going to give it to you. My industry, my people. I honestly, beginning of this year, little bit jaded. Wasn't really in it. My heart wasn't in it. I was just thinking more of the same. But you guys, we went into lockdown and look what happened. This profusion of sharing and caring and Facebook Lives. Can't get enough of you guys. You're all over my screen.
At all points of the day or night, you can tune in. You can just listen
this industry, whether you like it or not. Now, this is the soundbite. You can clip this later. This industry stepped up big style. I have seen other industries go to sleep. So solicitors were laying off people. This industry, they chose to use that period of lockdown as a time to engage. Some of you engaged your audiences, but a lot of you engaged in learning and bettering yourselves. You sat on more webinars than I care to think of. There were mastermind groups who could not meet but got together virtually. People, you have our industry's cheerleaders like Jerry Lyons. You've got your Chris Watkins. You've got even people like JP, and you've got Stephen Brown, and all of you. I mean, Kerfuffle this year. I'm sorry, I don't want to say that you've profited from the pandemic because that would be bad. But let me tell you, you guys have been there the whole way. And the fact that you've been there and you've been doing nothing special other than sitting there and talking to people about the products that estate agents can use to make their lives easier and to actually make the experience, the user experience of that end user, the customer, better. And
that's very kind. You say one of the things that makes me laugh is people say, I don't know how you sit there doing all of those. You're doing so much content. And all I've done is digitize the pub. Those are exactly the same conversations that I would ordinarily be having at conferences and in bars, but we've just put them onto StreamYard.
But that is a beautiful, beautiful concept, and it's a beautiful thing. And who ever thought that we'd be sat here doing this like this? But, you know, they are. And guys like Overman and Luke Sinclair and Stephen Brown, who run an alternative podcast, saw how popular ours was and decided to use StreamYard and bits and pieces so they could get the comments in on the morning. And I think there's been a transformation in this industry. It is so much better than it was this time last year. It's a different place, and I'm so proud of people because we do get such a shit rap in the press and in terms of what people generally think. But I think that scale is starting to tip, and that tide is turning, and people are starting to understand that estate agents are not just shysters.
Do you know one of the big things I think on that, and I agree with everything you've just said there, especially about Kerfuffle, is the point about I think because agents are personalizing themselves so much more. You know, people like Luke Sinclair borrowing from what the Americans have been doing, people, like the Australians have been doing, but also because Facebook is now becoming such a thing, you're starting to see the real personality and individual of the agents coming out. And it's only at that, obviously, if you've got to buy from somebody, that comes from trust and confidence in them, and that can only come once you see them so often on the screen, isn't it? This is a bit of a fucked up compliment as well, but you are, David, in the best possible sense, a bit like a cockroach. So the property industry is, and agents in particular, are cockroaches, and that's your quote for 2020. There has never been such an adaptable, robust, group of people.
Resilient.
Absolutely is. I mean, fucking Sunak must be absolutely just kissing the ground for the first time that you lot walk on, because you're the only fuckers bringing in any revenue. And to do that so quickly, I mean, first of all, you managed to. First of all, suppliers came to the fore with things like virtual streaming and stuff like that. So, never mind your Matterports, your Gavels, your UC Homes, all of these companies that enabled it. But ultimately, you lot had to get out there, and a bit like a granny overnight learning how to use Zoom, you guys were using future technology now like that and making it work in a really relevant fashion. And I think that it really is something to be proud of.
I think I honestly think that this year they've done themselves proud, and mostly it's somebody commented earlier that Hart were laying off shitloads of people. Oh, it was Andy.
Yeah.
Yeah, do you know what? This is probably the time, Andy, where independent agents shined because they were able to motivate themselves. Your drones and your sort of your clones that worked en masse for those bigger organizations, they did not have a good time of it at all. But you've got some great cracking independent agents, and because this is the era of personality, isn't it? This is where agents start to get the personalized marketing that you see out there in terms of, you know, what is location east. It's basically Andy Overman, isn't it? And
I think Andy's had a bit of a pop there with Lucas. His personality via autoresponders, which I think is, we've just seen their civil war develop in the estate agency podcast.
It's interesting because one of the Christmas launches I put live for some reason showed up on Luke's patch in Leicester. So yeah, I don't know why. But there was some sort of mix-up at Rightmove, and I ended up encroaching on his. I'm so sorry about that, Luke.
It was a land grab. It was a land grab.
You're kidding? I'm not going in there. They're heading for tier 4. In talking of which, I think we're all headed for tier 4. I don't know if you've heard this, but oh, hang on. Here we go. Peter Knight for doing digital EA Masters equals nice list 100%.
Yeah. Oh, yet again, number one's doing it. And yes, I've just took my forelock there, Mr. Number One. He turned out, I'll tell you what, because I know they were shitting themselves about that, to do all that work, you know, to turn that round in such a short time, and not just put on a kind of, you know, a Zoom performance, which would, again, you know, many were doing there. I know it almost broke his team, but that's another thing. It's going to be so interesting to see how events come back next year, because look at what Peter's done there. He's got Seth Godin, who there's no way you could have afforded to have had him actually turn up at the event, or indeed make it work with their diaries. But that's what those digital ironically, actually, Arik, in, you know, that big show in Australia, actually had Donald Trump on by screen a few years ago. So, you know, maybe we should be worried about that still developing.
Tom McGee, he has to make up for being patient zero and bringing Corona back from skiing. That's very true, Tom. Very true. But you know what? I'm hoping, even when we go back to normal life, that, or the new normal, the next normal, as Peter puts it. But I'm hoping that you keep that online element of it, because it enabled a lot of negs to get to conferences that they weren't normally able to go to. So no one's going to get 2 days off work to go and further themselves in that way. But you will get a login that's live for whatever it was, 21 days. And it means that you can actually benefit and benefit more than you would have done from actually being there, because you can't be in 2 places at once.
Oh, absolutely right. No, to have the 4 streams was very, very brave. There was a moment there where I think people's heads broke, where I was on 4 streams consecutively, which is probably not what people imagined 2020 was ever going to deliver.
So for me, 2020 has delivered a load of positives in our in our industry. Sorry, but a comment's just caught my eye. Oliver would like to nominate all the people who are currently transitioning. That's great, Oliver, and we're here with you, my friend.
Thank you for that really random comment. We were talking about transitioning last night, David. I don't mean we were talking about transitioning, but we were just talking about the subject transitioning. And I said that might be a good idea for me for 2021.
We were working through I think what we call the 7 phases of whale. So it's the 7 phases of inebriation that you go through.
All these baps.
On your way to your final destination, wherever that is.
That's normally singing Buffalo Soldier. We agreed.
Buffalo Soldier is an advanced stage of inebriation, but on the way, one of my favorites is the Karate Kid theme tune, the best around.
Yeah,
doesn't get better for me than that.
Indulgent, but fuck it. Can I just throw in because look, I agree, agents have been spectacular, but I also want to say a hats off to the vast majority of suppliers. Are you telling me to be quiet? No, the vast majority, because genuinely, without having to be asked, suppliers, when the first lockdown happened, got on the phone or let their clients know, and many of them came out with truly fantastic deals. To everyone talks about being in this together, but people like Land and New Homes Network, Kev Ellis's lot with 50% discounts off, data. I can't even go through them all, but in many cases these were absolutely completely unprompted, and these aren't all big multi-million pound companies, so they were taking really, really tough decisions, but they genuinely were doing it with the view of obviously being in this together and trying to do the best thing to help people through.
And when I said earlier that the property industry has done itself proud, it's not just the agents, but it is the suppliers. And we've shown that suppliers and agents together in this lovely Kerfuffle podcast sort of way, with you as the suppliers and me as the agent, we can come together. We can come together as one harmonious family that supports each other. And the other thing, and this isn't a veiled threat to suppliers, but this isn't. I'm just saying it like it is, because we saw it play out this year. Okay, life is good when you play with us. It's amazing. The guys that stepped forward without being asked, they weren't asked. And they came out, and not as a reaction to the Right Move story, but the actual true legends and heroes that came forward and said, look, this is what we can do to support you right now. This is what we can do to help. They should all have a look at that Right Move story and understand that when agents want to, they can get together and punish you as well. Yeah. And that is one of the biggest stories of this year. I mean, I know it's gone now. It's been buried under all this booming publicity. Say No to Right Move campaign could not have happened in any other climate. It's an amazing year.
I agree entirely. And for me, obviously, being a lefty liberal and this being a predominantly massively right-wing industry, it's brilliant to see that sort of socialism come to the fore. I've been watching from the sidelines as people like, no, you shouldn't give handouts, and then suddenly Sunak opens up the money trees, and it's like, yeah, that's all right.
A special shout out to Oliver. Actually, he's reminded me. Oliver bought me this wonderful T-shirt, by the way.
Amazing. I'm looking fine, Oliver.
Oliver's undergoing a hair transition as we speak.
Oh, that's what he meant. Oh,
yeah.
Sorry.
So very soon you're going to see a very hirsute Oliver James.
Oh, Oliver, please say you're getting dreadlocks.
I'm hoping so. He's a very handsome fella, and imagine how handsome he's going to be once he gets that mop of hair and the mustache back.
Yeah.
I'm hoping it's going to come back.
I think that's lovely.
Akaboom in the Pocket is a star of 2020. I never thought I'd end the year with Suzanne Mavety blowing off in my pocket every 30 minutes.
This is where the show gets taken down.
Oh God. No, but you know what?
You'll be happy about that. Brian is always talking about how he's got the sexiest product, which I probably think he has to have to agree with. Maybe Spectre might jump in there and say that's their product. But yeah, it's fantastic. I mean, genuinely, I've just gone live with that as well. That app. What it delivers in terms of a prospect. We were talking before about what a chore prospecting is. When you've got Akaboom in your pocket, it genuinely makes it just because they are absolutely at their hottest and are going to want to talk to you. It's fantastic.
It's fantastic that I open that email from you, and the next minute I get a telephone call from you. Now, anybody who knows anything about Simon Whale, to get an email from him is what, one in a million. To get a phone call, my God!
TikTok's my medium. You see that? Look at that. The lovely Tom McGee again. The entire group of estate agent podcasts. I don't know if why he's sucking up there. You've got your merch, haven't you, Tom? Stop trying to. That's very kind of you. And I think that what's been wonderful actually about it, going back to it again, is hello there's a mini mince behind us. That was perfect. The fact that it's liberated, but what would have happened a year ago, 2 years ago, is it put off a lot of people going online because they thought they had to have top quality streaming facilities, everything else. And actually, when it just came down to the nuts and bolts in lockdown, that just do it, the old Nike saying was absolutely all that mattered. And I think back to what Zoe from Belvoir said, where, the PVS guys, who are fantastic, big shout out to them. They said that so many people had spoken to them and said, oh, we don't like going on video. And Zoe admitted that herself and had just got past that awkward stage. And obviously, you can't keep her off there. And I think that's so demonstrably powerful for your agency.
But you know what that's down to? It's down to that. And a lot of people don't like it when he does it. But you see that loads and loads of articles from people like Chris Watkins, all about getting out there and doing it, and why wasn't your first video any good, and are you going to get traction? But our cheerleaders, so you people like Chris, you people like Jerry Lyons, you people like Stephen, our industry has benefited massively. They've not earned a penny from us in that respect, but they're out there telling us to go out there and do it. I don't know any other industry like it.
And in particular, I don't know this. God, this sounds like a bloody Oscars speech, doesn't it? But Mr. Watkins, Chris Watkins, he almost makes it look like it's suspicious. It's almost like you think, is this some sort of kind of Spectre villain going on? He just does so much out there and never asks for anything back. I saw him just post up yesterday. He obviously accepted that this time of year is very, very difficult for some people. So there he is, plastering his phone number. I mean, he does it on Tinder, so I shouldn't be surprised. But he plasters his phone all over Facebook and just says, look, if anyone wants to get me, just give me a ring on here, and I'll, between these set times and everything else, I'll do it. That's pretty amazing to go out there and say, whoever you are, just give me a ring. And by the way, to all those people that are having a difficult time, because it's horrible. I know lots of people, obviously, many people have lost friends, family, everything else. Christmas is one of those hardest of times, because whilst everyone else is celebrating, you're thinking about it. So, you do keep your heads up. There are plenty of people out there that you can reach out to. I think that's lovely to be able to see. Like Chris, I'll give you my phone number. I won't answer it, but the thought's still there. Do not suffer in silence. That's a quote that obviously it comes easily to me. And you need to just talk to whoever you can do. And if you haven't got somebody there are people like Chris and many mentors who will take the time to talk, and you never have to go through this stuff yourself.
Good morning, Mr. Wilson. Thanks for joining us a little bit late in the game. You've missed I think today was just an outpouring of love and goodwill.
If we whisper it quietly, David, you can actually watch this stuff on rewind or replay as well. So.
You can do, and it'll be available later as an audio podcast for all you people that are out jogging right now.
Look at this. Look at Andy Oderman, the fuck which misspelt Jedi.
Careful, Mint. Your number's about to be given out. You can give it out anytime you like.
David, can we just...
have you seen my little pig?
Yeah, I know.
Pig.
That's not culturally okay, is it?
I'm not going to eat it. It's there.
Just do that. Yeah. David, let's finish up now, and what we want to do is just set this up now for New Year's Eve. Obviously, the Estate Agent Podcast will be copying us now, but we are announcing first and foremost we're going to be here on New Year's Eve doing a review of the year, David, aren't we?
We are indeed.
Get your booze. We're going to have a boozing competition throughout as well to get yourself into that extra special mood.
Can we have a bit of a quiz, an industry quiz?
What we're going to do a quiz? Do we want to do a quiz?
We might do a little bit of a quiz as well. We might throw a few questions in there.
Well, I did say we've learned a lot from Trump, so let's do a lot of shouts. We're going to build that wall. We're going to do a quiz. We're going to do all sorts of magical shit if I can wake up on New Year's Eve. Everybody, have the best of weeks. Stay safe.
Love
David,
you all.
love you loads. Have a great day.
EA Podcast is on furlough.
We got them. We got them. We've sent them to the ground.